And now, Chapter 4 of Found. Try 102866, Chip whispered. Why? Jonah asked. That's Dad's birthday, Chip said. He's so conceited and stupid he'd probably use his own birthday as the code. It had been 2 days since Jonah and Chip had each gotten their You're One of the Missing letters, and Chip was acting crazier than ever. Today, coming home on the school bus, Chip had gotten obsessed with the idea that he had to see his birth certificate, that it would tell him everything he needed to know. So now the two boys were crouched beside a wall safe in Chip's basement. Jonah paused with his fingers poised over the digital key bag. Bad. Really? He said. Even if your birth certificate's in here, it's not going to help. Like I told you, like it says on the internet, when a kid's adopted, they issue a new certificate and lock all the old papers away. Your original birth certificate's not going to be in here unless it was an open adoption. And somehow, I don't think if your parents will even talk about you being adopted, just try the code, Chip insisted. My hand is shaking too bad. Jonah glanced over at his friend, who indeed looked shaky. Even in the dim light of the basement, Jonah could tell that Chip had a panicky sheen of sweat on his face. Chip's curly hair was mashed down because he kept clutching his head, like he had to work hard to hold himself together. He seemed about one step away from being one of those loony types who was mumbling to themselves on the street corner downtown. Jonah sighed and began punching in letters. 102866. Nothing happened. When's your birthday? Jonah asked. Mine, Chip said. September 19th. And you're 13? Yeah, why? Jonah didn't answer. He just began punching in a new combination. 919, the safe beeped. Then there was an audible click. The safe door sprang open just a crack. Bingo, Jonah said. He kind of wished his own mom or dad were there just to see them, because they wouldn't even be able to tell Chip, see, your parents must care about you some if they use your birthday as the code to the safe. But Jonah couldn't say anything that goopy himself. Go ahead and open it, Chip said. I can't look. He had a shaking hand over his eyes, but he kept lifting it to peek out. Jonah gripped the door to the partly open safe. Are you sure you want me to do this? He asked. This is like breaking and entering or something. Chip scowled at him. You're in my house, he said. I asked you to open the safe. Yeah, but your parents, what they don't want, or what they want, doesn't count anymore, Chip said harshly. There was some saying that Jonah's mom had always quoted, usually to Catherine, about how eavesdroppers never heard anything good about themselves. Jonah wondered if that also applied to boys opening lock safes looking at secret papers. But that was something else he couldn't say to Chip. He jerked on the door, swinging it completely open, and reached in to take out the first few sheets of paper on the top of the stack. This is just stuff about buying your house, Jonah said, leafing quickly through the papers. Real estate settlements, title insurance. Chip moved his hand away from his eyes and squinted at the paper. Maybe that's connected too, he said slowly. My dad says they got a really sweet deal for this house. I mean, maybe I was supposed to meet you so that I'd find out about being adopted. Jonah carefully put the house papers in a stack on the floor. About 4 out of every 100 Americans are adopted, Jonah said. I think you could have met someone who was adopted in any neighborhood you might have moved into. Now you're sounding really crazy, like those conspiracy theorists who think the moon landing never happened, or that the government has a bunch of aliens locked up in some military base in New Mexico. But they do, Chip said. Those aliens are real. You really believe them? Chip slugged him in the arm. No. Fooled you. Jonah was glad that Chip could still show a sense of humor, that he hadn't totally crossed the line into insanity. Jonah reached into the safe again and pulled out some more papers. He was careful to keep them in order as he sorted through them. 3/4 of the way down the stack, he let out a low whistle. Here it is. He held out a document labeled Birth Certificate, Cook County, Illinois. Chip evidently forgot that he was too stressed out to look. He crowded against Jonah's shoulder. Charles Haddington Winston III, huh? Jonah tensed. Chip grimaced. Crazy, isn't it? He bittered. Yes, I'm Charles Winston III, and I'm not even related. They just have to have some sort of kid so they could stick that name to them. Chip, you are related, or as good as related. They raised you, Jonah said. Well, not very well, Chip said. Jonah took one look at Chip's face and decided not to argue. He rifled through the rest of the papers. Beside him, Chip groaned. Happy Family Adoption Agency, Chip muttered. You've got to be kidding me. Something slipped out of the stack of papers that Jonah was holding against one knee, while he braced his other knee against the floor. Trying to catch the one sliding paper, Jonah lost his balance and fell over sideways. The whole stack cascaded down to the carpet, skidding towards the wall. Sorry, Jonah said. If things are out of order, your dad's going to be able to tell. I don't care, Chip said acidly. Jonah frowned and began gathering up the papers. He thought he got everything until he saw a scrap of yellow sticking out from a chair a few feet away. That's what started the whole mess, he muttered. He reached under the chair and pulled out a yellow post-it note. It said James Reardon, 513-555-0192. He held up the note so Chip could see it too. Was this with the adoption papers or the house stuff? Jonah asked. Chip narrowed his eyes. I know how to find out, he said. He took the post-it note from Jonah's hand and walked to the other side of the basement, where couches and chairs clustered around a huge entertainment center. He reached into the cabinet of the entertainment center and pulled out a cordless phone. Here, I'll put it on speakerphone so you can hear too, Chip said. Chip, I don't think... Jonah stopped because he couldn't explain why this suddenly seemed like such a bad idea to him. Chip was already punching in a number. Each digital beeping added to Jonah's sense of apprehension. Jonah rushed over to Chip's side as if being able to see the phone as well as hear it would make everything easier. The phone clicked, making the connection, and then smoothly flowed into ringing. It rang once, twice, another click, and then they heard a gruff voice boom out of the phone. Federal Bureau of Investigation, Reardon speaking. Jonah stabbed his finger at the button to break the connection. And we'll stop there.